Welcome back everybody to Living in Arizona Now. Today we're going to show you 9 scenic drives in the state of Arizona. Let's do it. First up, we're headed towards Sedona. This here is 89A along the Oak Creek Canyon. Now you're going to drive through here and see beautiful red rocks. To the side is going to be the scenic Oak Creek, but lots of different cottonwood trees and a variety of chaparral, almost into pines but not quite. But going through here, you're really going to feel like you're in a world outside of Arizona. Definitely this one right here is probably considered the premier, most popular drive. It doesn't mean it's the best one, it just means it's the most popular. Also along 89A here, you're going to see Slide Rock. And the best time of year to do this drive is probably going to be in the springtime or in the actual fall months, because that's when the colors change. So you'll get some pretty colorful trees. Now, another thing to take into consideration is if you do come up here and do 89A on a weekend or a holiday, you can forget it. It's going to be crowded and busy. It's not worth it. So I would suggest trying to do the drive going on a weekend. What people typically do is they drive from Sedona up till the end of Oak Creek Canyon. They turn around and then do the drive again, making some stops in between. You could stop at Slide Rock depending on how busy it is. You'll know because you'll see the cars on the side of the road. But if Slide Rock's busy, don't worry, there are a few more watering holes that you can stop at and do some swimming. If you plan to do a weekday getaway or maybe even a weekend getaway, even though I don't suggest it, you can book accommodation ahead of time and see if you can reserve either a campsite or one of the cabins in the actual Oak Creek Canyon. Or you can just do a day trip from Phoenix and go and come back, since Sedona really is just about an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to head down south. This here is Mt Lemmon on the North General Hancock Highway. So if you've never been down to Tucson, here's your opportunity to go down there. But for those of you who have been to Tucson and you looked up at the mountains, the Catalina Mountains, you saw Mt Lemmon, and you can actually drive up there, and that road is spectacular. You'll go from low desert to high desert to chaparral to eventually pines by the time you get up to Mt Lemmon. There's some very unique geological rock formations up there that really stand out. You'll also see some wildlife, mostly black bears really, but you'll see some deer. It's very rare that you don't see any wildlife. So if you're looking to see some wildlife, go up to Mt Lemmon because it's loaded with animals. Now, unlike the Oak Creek Canyon drive on 89A, this one's not going to be as crowded, although it can get quite crowded because when there's high snow melt or when we get a lot of snow, maybe the ski resort at the top can be kind of crowded, so people will be trying to get up there to see some snow from Tucson. Or in the summertime, on the weekends, people might be going up there. Again, maybe book ahead of time, but you're not going to see the kind of rush of traffic that you get in Sedona or in the Oak Creek Canyon, so that's a good thing, right? Now, when you get to the end of the road, you're going to be close to the summit of Mt Lemmon, which stands at around 9,150 feet elevation. They also have the Mt Lemmon Ski Valley, which I talked about. And there's a town up here called Summer Haven. It's growing fast. A lot of people are buying cabins up here. I mean, when I used to go up here in the 90s, there was maybe 10 to 15 cabins. Now it seems like more and more just keep popping up there. So it seems like a nice way to beat the heat when it's 105 or 110 degrees down in Tucson. You just come up here to 9,100 feet elevation and up into the high country, into the pines. Really nice. Before you head up there, I would suggest filling up on gas and making sure your car is in pretty good shape. It's not that the road's difficult, it's just that you want to make sure when you go on these road trips that you've got enough gas and your car's in good shape, because doing road trips across Arizona, you don't want to end up in a situation where you break down or have some sort of mechanical issues. So try to keep that in mind when doing any of these road trips actually. Alrighty, so from Tucson in the south, we're going to actually head back up north. This time we're on another section of the 89A. This is going to be from Prescott to Jerome, called the Mingus Mountain Drive. Now, Mingus Mountain is one of the more popular mountains, although many people live here and they don't know about Mingus. But it's the main mountain looking out towards the east from Prescott Valley, or looking out towards the west from Cottonwood. You may know about the Mingus Mountain High School. Well, that's why it's called that, because of this mountain here. But up here they do have more pines. It's another high elevation drive. You're gonna see a lot of different routes, Jeep trails going out into the wilderness. Some people like to camp up here. It's not gonna be quite like Mt Lemmon scenery, but it's still an awesome drive for those of you who want to do it. So basically, if you're going from Prescott to the Verde Valley, you end up going through Jerome, and you get a lot of good stops along the way. So that's what makes this such a cool trek. This is another day trip that you can do from Phoenix. What I would suggest you do is drive up I-17 at Coors Junction. You head towards Prescott Valley, but instead of going all the way towards Prescott Valley, you make the turn. And then once you go up the mountain, anticipate stopping at the top, at the summit, and then hitting up Jerome, walking around there for about an hour, dropping down into Cornville, maybe even checking out the Verde Valley Railway and some of the museums. Maybe check out one of the Native American sites along the Verde River there, and then head down to Cottonwood and walk around the downtown there, and then you can head back down to Phoenix. And we do have full videos of Jerome and Cottonwood specifically. If you just go onto our homepage, you can type in the name in the search bar and you can watch any of those videos if you have any interest in that. Now we're actually going to go up towards Oatman. This here is historic Route 66. Most people take some form of Route 66 if they're transiting across Arizona from east to west. Usually if you're going north to south, you won't really come across the historic Route 66 unless you're going through to Vegas. But Oatman here is an interesting town. They've got donkeys, and it's like a high desert old mining town. So if you want to see a cool place off the beaten path, it's in the northwestern part of Arizona, out there towards Mojave County. So it's a bit rural. This is definitely one of those places you're going to want to make sure you got a full gas tank, no bald tires or anything. I'm not saying it's dangerous, I'm just saying this one's really out in the middle of nowhere. There will be times when you won't have cell phone service in places like this in Arizona, because Arizona is sparsely populated. Yeah, we have some big cities, but once you get out in the boonies, you're not going to see much cell phone signal. And we've had this happen even on some of our road trips, especially up north around the reservations and stuff, where we thought there was going to be a gas station coming up and some gas station never showed up, and we were on a quarter tank and we just kept driving, and the next thing you know, we were on fumes and we barely made it. But it was in the middle of the summertime, and you know Arizona gets very hot. So I'm just letting you guys know, you want to take this stuff into consideration before going, especially if it's your first time venturing out into places like this. You don't know where there's going to be a gas station or what kind of predicaments can come up. And the story I just told you actually happened in northern Arizona, nearby the North Rim, out there by Lee's Ferry. It was the last time we saw a gas station, and we were headed towards Tuba City, and there's really nothing out there on that part of 89A. But out here, the big city and the nearby surrounding area is going to be Kingman. I guess you could say Bullhead City, but if you wanted a big city, actually, that would be Las Vegas, and that's about 2 to 3 hours away from here. Now here we are at Sunset Crater Volcano Loop Drive in northern Flagstaff. Out here, you've got the Native American Wupatki site. You've also got the volcano area just at the eastern foothill of San Francisco Peak, also known as Mount Humphreys. But it's really awesome out here. You're going to be sitting at around 8 to 10,000 feet elevation, varying depending on if you're going up or down. And once you get to the other side from Flagstaff, driving this route, you'll see the Painted Desert off in the horizon, looking towards the north or northeast. But in between there, you're going to see some otherworldly kind of environments, because this used to be a volcano. Now they say it's extinct or dormant. We don't know exactly. I mean, scientists are always gonna have to change their opinions about something once something starts rumbling. But as of right now, it seems like it's been a few hundred years since any sort of lava or volcanic activity. I would like to talk to the Indians who were living out here, Hopis or the Navajos. They would have known something, right? But as it stands right now, this is a dormant or extinct volcano, so you don't really have much to worry about until she grumbles. Now, if you wanted to do a day trip up here to Sunset Crater, I would say you'd probably want to start early in the morning, no later than 8, because it does take about 2.5 to 3 hours to get up here, and then to actually do the drive, you're looking at another hour to an hour and a half. So you'd probably be coming back down into Phoenix by the evening. But if you're going to come all the way up to Flagstaff, typically you're going to want to stay at least one night. There's a few different resorts or hotels, and it just depends on the season. Because Flagstaff gets snow, people come up from the valley, and then in the summertime people come up to escape the excruciating heat of the valley, so it just depends. And what you're really looking at here is towards the Painted Desert. This is where Apache Native American ruins are, so definitely do stop at those. There's 2 different sites for that, but you can see you go from Pines down into this high desert painted area. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this video so far and you love Arizona, be sure to like this video and support this channel so we can get out there and make more content just like this. But now we're actually going to head down south. This one's going to be just outside of Phoenix. It's called Apache Trail right there along State Route 88. So the Apache Trail goes right out there towards the Salt River in between the Usury Mountains and the Superstition Mountains. So you'll actually go right past Superstition Mountains off to the east. You can stop and hit up that park out there, or you can just keep cruising towards State Route 88 Apache Trail. Now, half of the trail you can do from the south side. You have to do the other part of the trail from the north side, starting at Globe, going out towards Roosevelt Lake, and then dropping down beyond the dam, because the middle section of State Route 88, the Apache Trail, actually got washed away in a massive rainstorm, and they still haven't repaired it, unfortunately. But this route, when it opens again, is something that everyone in Phoenix should do at some point. But right now you can just do half from the south or the other half from the north. So consider doing the Apache Trail. And the reason it's called the Apache Trail is because the Apache Indians were out here. This is one of the Apache strongholds out here by the Superstition Mountains, and it's totally wild wilderness out here. And again, it's one of those situations you're going to want to make sure your car's in tip-top shape and you got enough gas for sure. Maybe even bringing some water. This lake that we've been driving past is actually called Canyon Lake, a very beautiful lake if you want to get out there in the springtime or in the fall and get out on the water. I would say the summertime, but it's so hot out here, I don't know if you really want to be on the water in the summertime. But yeah, Canyon Lake is a very beautiful lake. Once you get beyond that, you end up arriving at Tortilla Flat. Tortilla Flat is like a pit stop. You can hit up the restaurant and the convenience store there, walk around and learn about Jacob Waltz, which is the Lost Dutchman, and then you can proceed into the Wild Blue Yonder, and that's when the Apache Trail really gets interesting. Once you get out there into the Wild Blue Yonder area, you will see there are a couple Jeep trails that you proceed at your own risk. I would suggest having a 4x4 vehicle to do any of them, but some people, they will take a 4-cylinder or a Jeep Cherokee or something and go romping around out there. I don't necessarily recommend that, but if you got a 4x4 and you know you're in good hands and you got friends with you, it is worth exploring some of those Jeep trails out here off the Apache Trail. And I just want to say, there are so many different routes and roads across Arizona that could be on this list. And even as I'm talking about the Apache Trail, it reminds me of other drives that are not necessarily going to be on this list. But I'll tell you right now, the drive from Phoenix through Superior up to Globe is quite amazing. So you could get 2 for 1 with the north side of the Apache Trail. Now we're going to head up to Monument Valley. I know some of you were waiting for this one because you're like, how do you go to Arizona and not talk about Monument Valley? This is a very beautiful place. As you can see, the geological rock formations are spectacular. People come out here and they cruise on their motorbikes, their mobile homes, their motor homes, whatever you want to call it, or just make the drive. This one's not really a day trip from Phoenix, so plan to stay the night. Now we're out here at the Saguaro National Park Loop Drive. This is in the North Kinney Road. There are 2 sections to the Saguaro National Park. Both are around Tucson. So one's out towards the west side of Tucson out by Old Tucson, and then there's another section of Saguaro National Park out there by Vail on the east side, kind of at the base of the Catalina Mountains. Coming out here, you're going to see lots of saguaros, of course, and I would call it a saguaro forest. These are really healthy saguaros, unlike some of the saguaros you'll see around Phoenix or some of the other parts of Arizona. It looks like the saguaros aren't doing so good. Thankfully, the saguaros out here in Saguaro National Park are still doing fantastic, very green and healthy looking. So be sure to do some exploring. Now we're going to check out the Salt River Canyon. This is actually on the Native American reservation on the way to the White Mountains. It's called Salt River Canyon, Highway US 60. You can get up here probably in about 2.5 to 3 hours. This is going to be beyond Globe. You could probably get out here and explore coming out from Payson as well, but you'd have to loop around. Because it's on the Native American reservation, it's going to be sparsely populated. It's going to be really rural and lots of nature. Some of you know about the waterfalls that are out here, but such an amazing place. This is definitely a place you're going to make sure you got enough gas. Sure, there are gas stations out here, but it's not going to be everywhere, so take that into consideration. One thing also, make sure you got good brakes, because you will be on some gradients that are quite steep, especially as you drop down from the mountains down into where the actual Salt River is, and then you start scaling back up. I would say you want to make sure your vehicle's in good shape for this one. That's something that I would like to mention. Now, if you guys enjoyed this one, consider watching some more videos. We'll put the best small towns and best weekend getaways videos next, so click and watch those right here on the end screen.